Hello and welcome to another writing vlog. In this vlog, I am going to be spending a few days working on one chapter and I'm going to take you along with me as I work on that chapter. If you're new here, my name is Stephanie and I am writing my very first book, which I am calling Project Lily, and I'm currently working on the third draft and specifically chapter 36. And what is so special about this chapter is that I have no clue what is happening in it. I really don't. And you might be wondering, how did I plan for a chapter and I have no clue what's happening in it? Well, this is the result of a very bad outline, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. When I made my chapter by chapter outline, I had some really major plot points in other chapters, and then I realized I needed some filler chapters, and I went ahead and inserted some, and I knew that I needed a chapter to go from one chapter to the next. I needed something in between to drive the movement. And I just kind of said, oh, I'll figure it out later. And here I am, and it's later, and I haven't figured it out. So that's what I am doing today. I just finished up the chapter before this. I spent about 4 hours this morning editing it. It's a really, really intense chapter. And the chapter that is occurring after this chapter is also going to be really intense. And I am very close to the end of my book. I'm at about 88,000 words. Because it's close to the end, the action after this chapter, this is kind of like the last easy chapter for my characters, and it's gonna just start to get really, really intense through the rest of the book. So they need a break, and I need a way to calm down the momentum before they really get thrown into some crazy stuff. This will be the last chapter where I don't really know what's going on. I've had a few of these throughout draft 3, and I've powered through them. It's been really tough, especially with the poor outline that I had made for these. And this chapter, kind of the last time I struggled through a chapter, I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I am going to really plan out this chapter before I start it. So that way when I sit down to write, I can be excited about what I'm writing. I can know what I'm gonna write, and I think it will not waste as much time. The only thing my outline says for this chapter is back to the castle. I don't know who's at the castle. I don't know why they're going back to the castle. I don't know what's happening at the castle. I don't know what people are talking about. Why do they even need to go to the castle? I don't know. So I really need to figure all this out. That's why I'm going to brainstorm. That's gonna be the first thing I do. So I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna ask myself these questions, and I'm gonna come up with different answers, different scenarios for why they need to do this, what is happening, what are they going to talk about. I'm going to make a list of these ideas and really think about what are the ones that make sense, what are the ones that I like, which are the ones that drive the story in the direction it needs to go. And hopefully by the end of this brainstorming session, I will have picked a direction for this chapter to go. I'm ready to go ahead and jump into the brainstorming. I have about an hour and a half before dinner time, and I think that's plenty of time for me to brainstorm. It's not gonna take me a lot of time because this is a very small portion of the book. Usually when I sit down and brainstorm, it's more broad, as in coming up with story ideas and plot ideas. And this is just a very, this is seconds in time of my book. So I don't think it's gonna take a lot of time. I think I can handle this in one session. I'm gonna write all this in a Word document, and I will catch back up with you when I'm done with my session and let you know how it went and what the next steps are for this chapter. All right, I've got a really good idea to go with for where this chapter is going. So I worked out who's gonna be there, the kind of conversations they're having. I've got 2 things that need to happen. And this is also a point where I'm going to start to merge a few plot lines. So things are gonna start becoming a little more interconnected. This is kind of where this starts to happen. And I've also planned out individual scenes. So there's going to be multiple scenes in this chapter, but this chapter is going to occur over the course of a few days. It's going to kind of sample little parts of a day for a few days. That's the idea I have, at least. We'll see what happens when I start writing it. And so I kind of planned out what needs to happen in each little scene. the first day this happens, and then the second day this happens. But I don't really know like exactly still what conversations are going to be, and I still don't know exactly what information is going to be shared, like how much information do I divulge in the story. And that's okay, because my next step is going to be outlining. So I have all these little plot points and scene ideas and things I need to put in the chapter and things I want to include. And now I'm going to put it all in an outline. It's a little disjointed right now. It's kind of like a little blob of stuff. And I'm going to turn it into a sequential outline of, this is the first scene, this happens, this happens, this happens, this is the second scene, this happens, this happens, this happens. And I'm going to go through and plan out the whole chapter. That way, when I go to write, I'm going to know, like, okay, I'm writing this and I'm going to include all this stuff and this character is going to say this. My hope is that I can just go in here and write really, really fast and write out this whole outline without stopping. I'm getting a little ahead of myself though, because I still don't have an outline. So I'm going to actually take a quick break to make dinner, and then I'm going to be outlining for the rest of the evening, and my hope is that I finish the outline before I go to bed tonight. Great news, I finished my outline. It really did not take as long as I thought it was going to take, and I actually found this really, really helpful. In the past, what I usually do is I have my what I call chapter by chapter outline, and each chapter just has like a little sentence about what's going to happen in the chapter. And before I write it, I'll kind of sit down and just go through my head, okay, what do I want the characters to talk about? What needs to happen? And then I write it. And what I have found when I do this is I forget a lot of things. Like, I'll be halfway through the chapter and then I'll randomly remember, oh, I was supposed to have mentioned something else earlier. And I'll be going through the chapter. Maybe I finish the chapter and I'll be like, oh, I completely forgot that the characters were supposed to talk about XYZ. This happens constantly. I'm still to this point in my draft where I'm almost done with my book where things are starting to pop up where I'm like, oh, I talked about this really early on in the book and I never mentioned it again, and I should have. So this is a problem I've experienced a lot. And in doing this little tiny chapter outline, I found that as I was planning out every subject that was going to be talked about or described in the book, that as I was moving down through the chapter in my outline, I was remembering things that I forgot to put in my outline. Like maybe the characters were supposed to say something, or I was supposed to put some kind of plot device in. And this really helped me catch all of that stuff now. And so when I sit down and write this tomorrow, I won't forget anything. Like, it's already all there. So I counted and I have 30 lines for my outline. And this is a lot more detailed than I typically do, but this was a really good exercise, and I'm glad I tried it because I think I may lean more towards this in the future. Maybe this is something I try to do in draft 4. I would really like to try it, but considering how far along I am in the book in general, like in the drafting process, it may not make sense to do a really detailed chapter outline for every chapter because I've already written most of it. But I at least know that this approach was really helpful for things that I haven't written before and are brand new. I just kept catching so much stuff as I was going through the chapter. And then when I reread it, I was remembering other things. And another thing I noticed was this also allows me to insert like sentences that characters should say. So when I brainstorm a chapter before I write, or when I think about a scene, I have little parts and pieces of dialogue pop into my head, like, oh, it'd be really cool if the character said this. And I'm not talking about like an extended dialogue. I'm just saying like a phrase or a small sentence. And a lot of times I try and keep that in my head because I don't really have anywhere to record it. And in doing this, I found myself like, oh, it'd be really cool if the character said this, and I would just write it in the subject area for my outline. And again, it's just a way of capturing all the little things that I tend to forget over time. I don't know, I think I may have just stumbled upon a game changer for me. So I am very satisfied with my outline. The next step will be starting to write chapter 36, and I'm gonna do that tomorrow. It's getting late, and tomorrow is going to be the day that I start working on this. I don't know how long it's gonna take me to write this chapter. It really depends on how much time I have. Am I getting into the flow of things? Are there distractions? Do I get sidelined? There's so much that goes into writing that it's not just sitting down and writing and trying to dedicate a lot of time to it like things happen. I do know I will be taking a large break in the afternoon. There's something I'm gonna go do, so I won't have tons of time to write tomorrow, but I'm hoping that I can at least get maybe halfway through chapter 36. That's gonna be my goal for tomorrow. So let's see how it goes. I just finished the first part of chapter 36 and it's going really, really well. I wrote about 1,000 words this morning, and I have to say this outlining method that I'm using is super helpful. I cannot believe I didn't kind of try this sooner. I'm still pantsing, which is really interesting because now I have a really pretty thorough outline of what's happening in the chapter, but I'm still coming up with stuff off the top of my head. And I think what it is I'm writing towards the outline, but then I'm just thinking of ways to make it better. And this is kind of a different approach than what I have been doing, because usually I just write a scene and just try to make it sound good. And now I'm writing the scene, I've already kind of thought it through, and as I'm writing, I'm making it better. Usually for me, the making it better part comes in editing, and it's what I've been doing in draft 3 after I rewrite a chapter or re-edit a chapter. And I just feel like I'm getting further ahead than I have been in terms of how I'm developing and making this chapter really cohesive and sound really amazing. I came up with a really stellar line that made my day. I really love when I'm writing dialogue and just this random piece of dialogue that's just gonna hit so hard, either emotionally or funny. When I have these moments, it just makes me so happy. It's so exciting just to write that sentence down and be like, ooh, the reader is really gonna like that. So I had one of those moments this morning, and that was really nice. It is right before lunchtime. I'm gonna go ahead and eat lunch, and then I'm gonna get back into this before I might leave to go out of my apartment. I was supposed to go to a Christmas market today, but it's raining outside right now, and it wasn't even supposed to rain today. So I don't know the status of the Christmas market, and we'll see if the rain maybe lets up, and I'll investigate it a little bit later. I don't know. But in the meantime, I'll just write. I am gonna be done for the evening, and it's before dinner time. I did write about 1,000 words this afternoon, and with my 1,000 words that I wrote this morning, that's about 2,000 words total for the day. I did take a break to go to my Christmas market, which ended up being a little bit of a bust. It was very, very small, and I went through it in like 2 minutes. But I still walked around because I love seeing all the decorations for Christmas, and at least I got out of the apartment for a little bit, so that was nice. I am on the last scene. That's where I've stopped, kind of in the middle of it, and I will be finishing that tomorrow, along with going back and reviewing / editing the chapter. What I've been doing in this draft and what I have found very helpful is that when I'm done writing, I go back and reread the entire chapter and edit it. The reason this is so incredibly helpful is because when I take breaks like this, like writing in the morning, then I stop for lunch, then I write for a little bit, and then I leave the apartment for a few hours and come back, I tend to forget things that I've already mentioned in my novel. It might be an observation about a surrounding or maybe how the character is feeling. I don't necessarily repeat dialogue because I kind of know the flow of dialogue, but there's certain things I forget that I've already mentioned and I mention them again. So doing this really helps me catch that repetition that I tend to have in my writing. But overall, this outlining method I'm using is still doing wonders for me. It is so helpful. It is keeping me from forgetting to put things in my writing, and it's keeping me very organized. And I think as a result, I'm really able to just fly through this chapter. There have been quite a few times while I've been writing this draft where I kind of get stuck. And I look at my novel or my writing, I'm just like, I don't know how to start this. I don't know where this is going. You know, I have these thoughts a lot. And this outline is really, it's kind of taken all that guesswork away. I know exactly what's happening, exactly what I need to write. And it's just made the process a lot easier. So I'm really glad that I've, am doing this and discovered this. That is going to be it for tonight. I'm giving myself the night off because I've actually been writing for a very long time, like for long periods of time. My average word count per day right now is between 2,000 and 4,000 words. So I've been moving very quickly through this draft, but also that means I've been spending a lot of time writing and I need a break. So I'm gonna make dinner, watch a Hallmark movie tonight, just have a night to myself and take a break from writing. And then I will get back to chapter 36 first thing tomorrow morning. I just finished lunch and I forgot to record it because I was so hungry I just ate. So anyway, that B-roll was a little short. I did finish chapter 36 before lunch and I'm so happy it's done. It took quite a long time. I was about halfway through the last scene, I think, last night, and I finished that up this morning. And one thing I kind of realized as I was going through the scene was I may have to delete pretty much what I wrote last night. And I hate when this happens. But as I was writing it, I can always tell when my chapters are getting a little long. And this chapter ended up clocking at 3,400 words, which in and of itself is not bad. But what I've been noticing is the words of my chapters are around 2,500 to 3,500 words every chapter. And I do have shorter chapters, especially in the beginning. I had shorter chapters, but as I am getting closer to the end, they're getting longer. And I have already gone past 90,000 words. I think I went past 90,000 yesterday. I can't quite remember. And that means I only have about 10,000 words left in this novel. And I still have 5 chapters left. Right now, I'm looking at a possible word count of my book at maybe around 110 to 115,000 words, which is substantially larger than draft 2. That's still not bad for a fantasy book, but I'm a little concerned at the amount of ballooning that happened while I've been writing this. Also, the scenes that I have left to write in these next 5 chapters are really important, and they probably will be a little bit longer just because it's the end of the book. There's a lot of action. Things have to get wrapped up. And so I think there's going to be more words than I already think there's going to be happening at the end of this novel. And it's kind of concerning to me. So anyway, I've been rambling about the word count of my novel. So yes, this chapter was 3,500 words. And when I was writing this part this morning, I was just like, everything that happened last night, it was a good idea. I really liked it. It had some character development and things like that. But I think overall, I could move that to parts of the last scene that I wrote and just basically take that first half of the scene and condense it into a few sentences, and it serves the same purpose. And kind of adding all these little scenes is a problem that I've had throughout writing this draft. I just have so many ideas. Like, oh my God, it'd be so cool if this happened. It'd be so cool if the character did this. And then I want to incorporate all that in my novel. And what happens is I just get all these little tiny scenes, and while they're good and they, grow the story and grow the character, there's just too many. This is something that I'm definitely going to pay attention to when I go back and read my book and edit it. And I think when I do the final editing, I can kind of see where can I condense it. Because I don't really think so far in my writing journey, I've really looked at how do I condense things. It's more about, have I explained everything? Are all the things in the story that need to be in the story? And now I need to look at the possibility of condensing it a little bit. I am not done yet though. I still am going to edit chapter 36. I had talked about this last night, but I'm going to reread the chapter, make sure that it flows. That way, if I made any mistakes when I took breaks or whatever, I can catch that. It shouldn't take me very long to do, and then I'm gonna go ahead and fix that one scene that I was just talking about, condense it, make it shorter, and then hopefully I'll have a wonderful chapter at the end. Chapter 36 is done, thank goodness. This actually took quite a bit of time for me to get through this chapter, 3 days. And normally I can do a chapter in about a day. It definitely took longer because I took time to outline it and really do things right. So I think in this instance, because I started off with a chapter that I had absolutely no clue what was going to happen, and I ended up with a wonderful chapter, I think this little approach I took worked very, very well. I ended the chapter at about 3,000 words, which is 500 less than I had before I started editing it. And that's wonderful. I'm glad I could cut that down a little bit. My novel's currently sitting at about 100,000 words. I don't know if you saw that in the B-roll. I do expect that to go up just because I have 5 more chapters, and 5 chapters is not going to be 10,000 words. It's going to be more like 20,000. 15 to 20,000. So we'll see what happens. Other than that, the next step is going to be continuing on with draft 3. And since I have only a few chapters left, I'm pretty sure the next vlog is going to be just finishing draft 3, which is super exciting. I hope you enjoyed spending a few days with me writing a chapter and seeing more of my process, and I will see you in the next writing vlog.